So we've done a bit of rejig, so the next person that's going to come up, he's a poet, he's a philosopher. Every time we talk to him, you learn something new.
Yeah.
And I always see him in the circle sessions doing his bit, and he'd done a full set before. And I was just like, Phil is the man.
Yes.
So we need to see him again. So Phil, could we welcome Phil to the stage, please? Next, Phil.
Can you guess what's in my bag? So, for years, Mom's always telling me, you're carrying too much around in your bag. And like, I've just lent into that over the years. So, let's see. Writing, more writing, more writing, more writing. Writing.
Got his whole apartment there.
Yeah, I've got my own little library of myself, like, I got full-blown egomania now. Random selection. Okay, we'll start with some Ruby. That seems appropriate. So I used to. So I'm just going to get straight into it because, as I've said before, generally, if I start talking preamble, I'll talk about what I'm going to do for the next 30 minutes and not actually do anything. Which I might turn into an actual set one of these days, but not yet. So, I used to haunt the lanes of Dame Lane, Sweeney's,
Yes.
which, on top of the actual education I had in Maynooth University, ended up kind of being like an education in and of itself, because I was just like, I would literally be like sitting across the road, just in Starbucks, like waiting for the Starbucks to open. And I was on, where was it? College Green. Yeah, it was College Green Starbucks. Now where is this bloody, there it is.
Nice.
Oh, I couldn't find it. Oh my god, catastrophize. If anyone can catastrophize, it's me. I'm a professional catastrophizer. So this poem I performed a whole bunch of times. It's probably one of the first poem people ever saw me perform. I used to be one. If I wasn't dancing upstairs on any of the 3 floors of Sweeney's, we'll be talking about that later, poetry-wise, I'd be, banging out this poem to them, and it's called Community of the Spirit. It's a nice Bless This Space piece by Rumi, the Persian poet of Sufi fame. So here we go, Community of the Spirit. There is a community of the Spirit. Join in it and feel the delight of walking in the noisy street and being the noise. Drink all your passion and be a disgrace. Close both eyes to see with the other eye. Open your hands if you want to be held. Sit in this circle. Quit acting like a wolf and feel the shepherd's love filling you. At night, your beloved wanders. Don't accept consolations. Close your mouth against food. Taste the lover's mouth in yours. You moan, she left me, he left me. 20 more will come. Be empty of worrying. Think of who created thought. Why do you stay in the prison when the door is so wide open? Move outside the tangle of fear thinking. Live in silence. Flow down and down in ever-widening rings of being. There's a strange frenzy in my head of birds flying, each particle circulating on its own. Is the one I love everywhere? Drunks fear the police, but the police are drunk too. People in this town love them both, like different chess pieces. Yeah!
Yeah, Carter.
Excellent. What tickles my fancy? Random access. Let me think. Yeah. Actually, yeah. So I was rooting through the stuff. Like I had with me, it's always like there's always a bit of a lastminute.com. So it's like my performance stuff. So whenever I've done performances, it's always been like, yeah, I'll be going to like circle sessions like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that poem. It'd be like 3 hours before, I'm like, definitely doing that poem, definitely doing that poem, definitely doing that poem. Half hour comes, I'm like, no, actually, I'm going to do a different poem. The next 50 minutes comes, and now I'm changing my mind completely. And then I'm like, all right, oh my God, I'm on in 5 minutes, and I'm going to change this poem, I'm going to do this poem. And then I'm like walking up the stage, I'm like, no, I'm just going to do this poem instead. It'll be like literally lastminute.com. So that's pretty much the way I roll.
Yes.
So in that spirit, I was like, today I was digging through all my stuff and kind of going, oh, well, I wonder if I have any stuff there that I haven't performed, which is pretty good. And so I just literally just pulled out my big vault of books and I was like, started reading through this and I was like, hey, this is kind of good. There's a lot of good fucking shit in here, if I do say so myself. So, I'm gonna read some new shit for you.
Yes.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, so to begin, this is called Near and Far. A stigmata of metal speared through my right hand. Snakes emerge elementally through subtle suggestions. A van passes, saying, Garden of Eden. 2 trucks over the course of the day say, transcend. Renewal of company becomes a verbal joust of who could claim to have it worse. A subtle shift could render moot this state. A minor alteration could cue the onset of impending possibilities. Loves and loves present themselves, the jubilant cacophony, rendering your pride a sorry sight. Healing and hurt become polar opposites in the endless dance that envelops them. Black and white koi fish encircling a current they are generating. As foundations are unsurfaced, and for a moment myself is enveloped by something bigger and greater. The gripes and grievances of old they used to siphon 2/3 of my spirit every day dissipate away from themselves. In time my responses turned from antagonism and sought to render something sound and viable from a not too benevolent circumstance. Fundamental ideas of order upended the world over in a matter of years. Plagues and political descent into barbarous disruption. Suddenly a tendency towards positively aligned chaos finds itself ready to spring into action. Protocols forged in response to diminished capacities overcame defects and embraced approaches that aligned with the freeing up of things. Freely encouraging monumental change became a mission, and every detail aimed towards specificity built a slightly better form to adapt or springboard from in the future. A year of untold sorrow arose in tandem with breakthroughs unknown to me. It was clear that this was a baby step in a scheme I didn't truly have the mastery of. Trust, truth, bravery, and compassion were the aligning imaginary points that existed out there in all probability. Incremental steps peppered with radical leaps of faith, despite the contentions of some. Fail hard and often had been a practice from which eventual progression unfolded, though by no stretch of the imagination would end in this lifetime. But to be as you are, your only law. Leave the will behind. Forget affected meaning or intent. Forge a key, forge a door. Hide them in a secret room and forget. Go about your business as an initiate of the humdrum until mysteries elusive congregate within. Identifying and merging, feeding them in your sinews and bone. Make identical the mysteries with every unseen unknown. For yours is the completion yet to come.
Yeah!
Where's my water? Oh, there it is. Tipperary. Would you believe a freaking security guard in Starbucks was like, you can't drink that in here. I was like, I've drank water in Starbucks for like 19 years. And he was like, ooh, and I was like, oh man, I'm getting out of here. I hate your energy right now. I just wrote, in the spirit of my mother, I wrote a well-worded complaint to Starbucks. So,
Up the mat.
that'll learn him. Okay, so here's one that is somewhat historical, as some of my pieces are. It's called Pip, which is a nickname given to me by my dad's family, and definitely my aunts, and especially Auntie Paula and Auntie Janet. They're all called it Pip, which is ironic now because I'm a huge fucking fan. If you didn't notice that already. So here we go. So Pip. Senseless he was born and wriggling, overcooked by a fortnight, summoned to existence by his infant brother from the chance collapse of a cock. In infancy, he contrasted extremes, motionless and still, staring without attraction or aversion into the void. Having not the categories to distinguish this from that, every silently humming would absorb all manner of input, potential for a paradigm shift, inevitable as churning magma. When the imperceivable line was crossed, this baby would go from Buddha to a wailing, inconsolable spirit in a heartbeat. No way to distinguish, no conception of self, nor any conception of will to conceive it. Wail, 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 kicking of the walls. No conventional attributions of hunger or nappies needing changed for the reason. Parents at their wits' end knew by the stark difference between their second and first child that he was different. They didn't need a degree to know that. By hits and misses they began their search, and had every manner of opinion. Some doctors, drawing from outdated lore, considered the boy a write-off, and to be sent to an institution that could provide the adequate care he needed. His parents, respectfully declining this route, opted to continue the search. Years of assessment ensued. Therapists for walking, therapists for talking, therapists for the hands and eyes and ears, therapists, in short, for learning how to learn. After years of searching, Asperger's syndrome matched the nuances, behaviours, states and traits that had been hitherto undefined. Now there was a path, albeit one fraught with twists and turns. Now a map of sorts to thread the obscure territory that this fate had chosen. Every minute detail of the day, changing, washing, speech training, walking, learning to not run or walk, staring at my feet. Learning not to wobble, learning not to mumble, learning to read, learning not to write utter chicken scratch. 11 years. Age 12, an assessment came, scoring in the 90s in logic, abstract logic and verbal ability. The therapist saw, his parents taken aback, questions asked, history, nature and much more, locations, behaviours, attributes relayed in scintillating detail, as close to hand as the surrounding air. All that love, all that labour had meaning, and not in some vague fashion, but in reality. It was here. It existed. This was the start of something. I think I got some coffee. In the time-honored tradition, Mom, do you remember mashed bananas?
Yeah.
I think there was like a little coffee spill in my bag, so
Yeah.
this is all very, it's all very relevant, like coming full circle here. Some things never change. Okay, so this poem is called Stimtastic, and many of you will have direct experience of this. Click, clack, go my fingers, when I can't remember. Tap, tap, go my feet, when exploring a wave of energy. Winding back and forth. My neck rotates, the edge of a circle, as though to catch a wayward sound. My face ripples in concordance with extreme joy and extreme disgust. Overwhelmed, my body is a battery with no output, and all input, save for the protocols I have amassed through years of fidgeting. A drum set my table would become in second year English class. Tap, tap, tap. Could you please stop that, the teacher would ask. Tap, tap, tap. Stop. What, I would respond. Stop that. Tap, tap, tap. Stop what? Stop that. What? Stop. What? Stop. Tap, 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 tap. If I squinted real hard and sat statuesque still, I could somehow summon silence for a spell, but my mind would wander as it was wont to do, and the tap-tap-taps would resurface with a vengeance, and will call their bold allies to the battle for sensory dominance. Clack, stop that. Stop what? Clack, stop that. Stop what? Tap, clack, clack, tap, tap, clack, tap, 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 clack, clack, clack. May I ask, where is your mask? Another icon to obstruct, coverings to diminish and impede, sovereign over the immortal self, karma inherited over eons of repeats, mundane adherence to the expected, ages spent, undetected, sacrifices made, from fears respected, kindreds obeyed, from norms collected, morbid coherences, though not coherent, animal man buried beneath, servants of denial emerged, knowledge of define submerged, And that's it. You can click, click if you like. If you like, click. Okay. This poem is called Entheos. I love fancy Latin titles, so it's where the word enthusiasm comes from, the spirit with it. It used to be a religious term, but now everybody uses it these days. Enthusiastically. Okay. Now is won and is owned. One wondered and wandered. Externals were not of eternity. Foundations were found here, not out there. Woods and trees and rolling landscapes. Skeletal metal and hypertense concrete. Colton and blue lights our hardened hearts permeate. Ghosts and imagined themes are indistinguishable from dreams. Machines of functions and utility, by guile and subtle persuasion, left us at the manufactured mercies of perceived carrots and sticks. Gallivanting out in the world, energies dissipated sporadically without aim, without purpose or foundation. We were no better than a mad horse, whinnying, neighing, and booking everything about, repelling real interaction. Returning to our inner sanctums, we find our temples in ruin, assailed by the forces of stagnant inattention. Creeper vines coiled in choking pillars, the symbols of our own mythos, caked in dust and sediment, standing in a ruin resembling someone we once knew. We brought nothing but ourselves to the world, but forgot the world that formed us was not out there, but in here. In the instance we realized we saw the neglect serve no one, not even ourselves. In that moment we resolved to become the very thing we always were, no longer beyond conception. The direction you flow is the direction you go, for better or for worse, a blessing or a curse. Be your vehicle a progress or regress, a chariot or a hearse. Betray the heart mind and disperse your soul for silver like Iscariot. Call yourself a poet or a patriot. Play your game and make what you make of this. Do you wish the well wishes of the unified verse? Know it to be true. The operation of spelling ain't a coinkydink, no matter what you think. When on the edge of the precipice, know this. Notice your common sense and move beyond yea or nay. Your crystallized verbal formulae are more than idle wishes or the condition of your mental interplay. Let your indecision wither on the vine. Your clock is ticking and you're wasting your time. Shut down the lazy bum in you. No passes left to skip a turn, no chewing gum or bubble blue. But now the time's come to kick some ass. Yeah. There's a bit of a pop culture reference in there. I don't know if you know that. Anyway, form the vision you would wish, dip your toe in unending oceans, become a fish. Resolve to power your system into existence, nullify your stagnant persistence and insistence that you're wasting yourself on whims and dreams. Convert silent wails into joyous screams. Waylay the loser you so detest. Raise the hero who arose from the infinite potential of zero. Rise beyond foe or friend and give your heart the praise it so craves. Past the ranting and raving of a sleepless night. Awake, instigate, arise.
Yeah.
Yeah, God, I'm foaming up now. Speaking of ranting and raving, professional ranting and raver here. Okay, let's go. This one's called Incarnation. This is a bit of a popular one now.
Nice.
It speaks for given people. It's going to mean a bunch of things to a bunch of different people, so here we go. Incarnation. Kenny is the kingdom, my own local dominion, composed of flesh and bone. We built from an unknown place. Names were unnecessary. Details and distinctions were but a fantasy. All was all there was, encompassed in a unity. When summoned from my eternal reverie, made to build a world from scratch, with now pre-existence to match, away I worked in a guild of my own making. Now, I know I was an outsider before I knew the cause. Spent years in hiding trying to don the roles expected of me, forged by neurotypical modalities. In good faith, I would memorize the characters expected of me, the people I was supposed to be, thinking it would accumulate into epiphany, and after years of seeking, I could say confidently, here I am, a human being. I followed the rules. Where is the inclusivity, the fraternity, and reliable reliance I was promised? If I obeyed and curtsied and be what I was told to be uncompromisingly. Yeah, well, there you go. In years I amassed as a method of survival, and no, I'm not talking about the years spent fearing the malady of COVID, but the insistence for conformity, which little did I know at the time was fucking killing me. Years spent sustaining a delusion of humanity, lending to a disconnect, fueling a resentment fed by being a role and not a person. A situation in retrospect I'd swore I'd lay a curse on. Every goddamn party parents didn't want me at primed me to be particular as to who'd I'd articulate my genuine character. A lifetime of exclusion, made to be mandatory for the beneficiaries of a genetic lottery. Inclusion was a clarion call of every virtue signaling arsehole, who told you were grand being yourself, until you were told, could you quiet down, please? Language isn't universal, and among the lists of words I disdain passionately, I bite my thumb and flip the bird unabashedly to this imposition of conformity, asking me could I perform and pretend not to feel singled out? Could I only move and vocalize at the prescribed time? So many rules. Countless times I fell by the wayside, deprived of a theory of life on which I could rely, before I knew to redirect the energy inside so it wouldn't explode in meltdowns and outbursts of non-contained fury. And all would be oblivious to the happiness or sadness in me, until I leapt forth happily or sorrowfully. My peers would shuffle uncomfortably, all the way from Montessori all the way to mania at the university, admonishing repeatedly, could you stop being antisocial, please? Little did they know, the cracks had started to show long ago. Age 16, after years of waking up as if my heart had been restored, I resolved in that instance to audibly exclaim in a higher case, laddering, fuck this shit! 19 years on, after too many close calls and endless pitfalls, here is something that might stick. I'm not a prick, I'm fucking autistic! Accepting who I was has redefined and returned this person to his purpose. In a world, unity sublimely blended, rendering the imaginary and realistic as the one mind and one world I could not find. When silence found its place, the vista stretched out in a space, infinitely extending outwardly and inwardly, all myriad paths reaching out and reaching out to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this, to this. Thank you.
10 minutes after.
Okay. 10 minutes and I know just the two. They're what I like to call 5-minute bangers. Everyone here knows my philosophy of 5-minute bangers. Yeah. 5-minute bangers. You have to have a 5-minute banger. 5-minute banger. 5-minute banger. Have I never told you about 5-minute bangers before? So here's one of the first 5-minute bangers I ever wrote. I literally ran in one day. I did a jobs bridge internship. Like, they weren't very good at getting jobs, but I was very fortunate. I had 2 very good jobs bridge internships, one in UCD and one working for a marketing advertising guy. I was terrible at it, but he was very nice to me. And I spent most of my time reading kind of like I was reading marginalien.com, with just loads of different stuff. And it kind of just populated my mind, all this stuff over a couple of months. And then I was walking down Dawson Street and I just had this sudden epiphany. I ran into the Dawson Street Starbucks. I was like, I threw all my stuff down in this corner that I'd always sat in. Like, I just ran up. I was like, coffee, give me a coffee, please. Blah, 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 blah. Ran over, got the cup of coffee, stuck on my sunglasses, put on my headphones, created my own little sensory and trained environment, and was like, okay, let's see what's here. Because I knew I always get that feeling when something's about to happen. And this is what I wrote. And I was listening to My Favourite Things, by the way. But it tends to work pretty well with any sort of Coltrane backing. As you might know. Yes, you would. Yeah, okay. So Coltrane's vision. I eyed the flyaway. I saw another day. I eyed the sky to fly away, not asking why, but dying to try. And from my lofty heights I do spy the wars and the wastes of the world to die. Respect for the crying man on the road, shoulders to break but for the load, now knees left to implode. Bones to break and brains to know the pain for the ghost that powers the flesh machine called man. Dry the tears that flow and know that the other is the naming of a sister or a bro not found wanting one thing for another for one thing or another. No matter where you're at, you're always one fly cat, with the fat of the land and the prosperous you command. Whether you bow to the east or look at the blue and laugh, it's all there in the cenotaphs. The bards of old, we are they, no matter what one would say. There's one for me and one for you. There's one for every parent too. It is ours, it is not to pray, that we receive and with great relief throw the weight off our backs, not to be broken by this and by that, from the centre of the void begat, all at the crossroads where the road turns and the weary and the strong burn with equal intensity, having the propensity for equality. Burn on, says Sontag, you permit me to do the same. In and out came our fathers, never to remain. For seniority we revered them, dulled in them our praise, made sure to drink up and remember all of their wonderful ways. A part of the world unmoved, another part that grew, forsooth I know not why. Another and another have to die for the sake of those they say are wiser. We sit back for another brewski with the buds, all those who despise her, all our fathers in their blues, who in killing know exactly what they're doing. It's not for me or for thee that trouble's brewing, but it's for them. It's for them. Breakups and bombs down fragments of feelings. The body's heart and a catastrophic sound. When was it renowned, the killing of another, to the breaking of a heart, or the killing of a mother, sister and brother? Lucky to be left broken emotionally, but you have every other. A house, a road, a sky upon which nothing darkens, for even the darkest sky could bring a tear to your eye. Go for a walk. Walk in freedom. Tell yourself you got problems of the open air unwalled, not the open air gravel pit stored for another lofty racist shit defending their right to be pissed and calling everyone else the terrorist. Do something. Spread not evil by doing nothing. Philosophize and try if you can what the eyes and the ears prophesize. The harshest sound pecks like a bird. Your ears hurt for what they've never heard. Your eyes hurt for a level of light they've never seen. Neither absurd nor obscene, but life without the shining sheen. Viewed not through polished glass, but the sober view of one ass that has been handed to you more times than two. Essence of the directionless. Now what will come to pass? With neither a clue or a compass to guide you, in tatters to what you never knew, not to be construed as what you thought, but removed from what you agonized over, searching for the love of another lover. Take me from that covenant that lay me true in flesh and bone. Bless me, Father, it's been 1,000,000 years since my last confession. I know not the past or the spilling of the inner fears, taking down the winning woes of sanity, containing and withdrawing all urge to profanity. I find myself shrouded in the faint dogmas of my kith and kin, never knowing what state my head is in. Bless me, sir, I never knew that you were a sinner too, and should not the lesson to be not to live in misery, but to accept our ever-perfecting and perfect reality. Striving for an Eden that never was or ever shall be, haunted by the ghosts of the Trinity, my bullshit ministry. In the jungle I arose, not yet donned in clothes. I was a nudist ape amongst unrealized nudist apes. They knew not what it was, but I for shame covered up my naked ass. Even not having a name, my ass blushed red all the same. Never have the depths of hell been bothered with flaked out fools such as myself. It is a bit much, I bet, to forever put up with it. This feather drawn about in certain terms by weather-like forces who move our lives with yet unseen resources, but we take it on the chin that this is the state we're in. Not a moment for debate, but action is to raise the foot and get up off our asses. No satisfaction really in relaxing. We're made to move, and move we will, not for pettiness or for cheap chills, mayhaps encountered standing still like that tall hill, or inciting movement like the thunder, succumbing not to trite and petty blunders. One's action is reminding that the joys in life worth finding aren't of a kind that is rude, a bit of a truth that is blinding. You can't approach it directly, but you do know the way. You've picked it up from what the others say. Though bits are wrong, though bits are true, it ultimately comes down to you. Now I might mind not so much if preachy I'd be called of. No doubt that out there somewhere a man with a bigger mouth is reaching for someone too.
What a good thing.
You Phil.
Not bad for a 10-minute first draft.
Good.
But just say so myself. Okay, so I'm going to finish up now with one of my all-time favourites. My friend Bob one night was just like, hey, he's not actually American at all, but he just talks like Tom Waits and he's had a few beers on him. Hey Phil, why don't you write a poem about sweets? I'll give you 200 euros. He never gave me 200 euros. In fact, I ended up getting a grant for it, paying him to direct it, and loads of my friends got paid of it. In fairness, though, we all got paid, so it was great. It worked out. But yeah, he was the instigator. So see if you can spot where he's actually mentioned in the poem. There's a little Easter egg for you. Up with the modern lingo. Okay, Ode to Sweeney's. Ode to Sweeney's.
I was there.
Yes, you were. That's you were.
Yeah.
Okay. A unique island in a sea of madnesses offered refuge for the mad, and found in their number, they were now alone no longer. For a time were comforted. They may have been no greater or weaker upon entering, or leaving for that matter, but for a time didn't consider of what shape or manner their facades were composed. Singular mass, oceanic insanity, provided safe haven for fools. Digits coalesced and obtained, lowliness interrupted, unassailed by fear. Nothing was tangibly different upon arrival. Temporality was not aware of any distinctions it had. Playing squash with words, for want of a better verb, a smell has been collecting in the rear of the pub. Some have drank tea for 2 hours. Usually the same long cool cup. Outcomes and welcomes are usually worn out by the end of the night. The legless somehow walk as though newly arisen. It seems like the talk has diminished to naught with naught but the holdout of a drunk and or stoned mumbler. Random daft. 3 floors. Split. A trigram of yangs, abundant and creative, ends in the early morning, cloudy earthed and eating to bits. Even the shutters now drawn. A post-shift pint poured for their relief is marred by the jarring djembe of a beloved lane hippie, consummately consumed in the oneness of... Excuse me. There's a potent possibility that no one will go home, even with the close proximity of the sun to arrive in 3 hours. Some sleeping may occur, and Glyn may play some guitar if he fancies it. Maybe a few trad tunes. Definitively an L triangle, and tangles of beatific hair ribbons to make these mostly 80s, 90s babies reminisce on romantic Ireland, dead and gone. I call, and the day seems all but unnecessary until the night falls. Understanding and misunderstanding become the very basis of many an enduring friendship. The works and eyelessness of the many become streamed from the one source. With enough encouragement, all will be levelled this night. The pains of dark party dwelledom will strike an all too united note when the morning comes. When the morning comes and all the glass has been swept, the shutters rise like an open mouth, ready to inhale over a day's course. Was it reggae last night or jazz? Everybody danced regardless. No old crowds or new crowds here. There are varying degrees of love and enmity, egosity, tomfoolery, enough occurring we consider coining our own adjective, somewhere out past the back of beyonds. Far away from shenanigan, nor a mile of devilment, some would rather listen to a drunken professional musician than some young lad's half alright rendition of Layla. It's open mic season, And with the beer of a Tuesday night, it's got the airs of the extraordinary and otherwise all too ordinary condition of sucking really bad. I dance really badly, purposefully out of sequence, to some number far slower than my feet, with the relative condition of shame overcome. The ice broke, melted, and all remembered come tomorrow. Nothing would be, all was now. I made myself arise and take account, made no promises to achieve a single thing, and it occurred as it was supposed to be. Everything presented itself with no plan of mine to interfere. 'Twould be washed away anyway, reduced in reverse distinction, non-differentiation, destruction by another name. The mirror showed the viewer what it wished, granting it little and much. There were no poverty and richnesses, just those who saw and believed and those who merely watched without saying a word. Those who were unlearned were considered lucky. Silences uninterrupted, perhaps a supreme blessing, a different path, albeit to those who necessarily had to wander for some long, unaccountable epoch, becoming disenchanted and dissatisfied, looking for the answers they were convinced to be correct, but not some dull blankness, but a balance of ordered chaotic forces with no strict place in the world to exist or not to exist. A storm with a calm eye by necessity. A body with I and me at its heart, moving and rattling and shaking everything up simply by being near, consumed by torrents, producing torrents, and for a long time unaware of the casual connection, spurred on by its simply being there. Philip Kenny's bag of witchcraft.
It's a very nice bag.
Yeah, it was a birthday present. My mum got it.
Oh.
Yay!
I set that up nicely.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my mom's gonna find his face. I'd be dressed in a potato sack if it wasn't for my mom. She gave me a hair. I went over to the national today. She gave me a haircut. Yeah, my mom gave me this haircut.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was only gonna say.
She was like, it'll always start with filming. Can I just do your ears? And then it's like, we're gonna give you a haircut. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Keep it up and feel everyone. Oh, so good. Feels bad. What do you think of that?
Yeah.